Hello, hi, welcome. My name is Ali Kazmi, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our AEoI conversations. Today, my guest is my colleague, Chris Orchard, arguably the leading authority on AEoI matters. So with that, welcome, Chris.
Hi, Ali. Thanks for talking.
Let me ask you, you were there right at the beginning when the negotiations were taking place with the IRS in relation to FATCA. Now, the regime's been going on for several years now. What do you think is one of the critical areas that firms need to be mindful of?
Well, I think the position has been reached now with the IRS that they will be looking at the information they've been receiving and looking to make sure that everything is working as it should do. And I think they're going to start looking in particular at the number of financial institutions that have applied for and been given a global intermediary identification number, the GIIN, and looking to see why many of those aren't actually making FATCA returns. The whole purpose behind the GIIN was to give a link to the IRS to be able to look quickly at those firms that were providing information to them. Now, there may be very good reasons why a firm has a GIIN and hasn't made a FATCA return. It could be that they just have no accounts to report on. And because of the way the HMRC has worked and that they don't require nil returns, if you have a nil return, you don't need to do anything. Slightly different from those that have applied the de minimis limits, because there should be some contact with HMRC for the purpose of making the election that's required to say that you're applying de minimis. So there again, there's a link. You can see that they've done the due diligence, they've come to the conclusion they have reportable accounts, but applying de minimis, they don't need to. Those that have reported absolutely nothing and have not made any election, I think the IRS are going to start asking the question, why did you apply for a GIIN in the first place? Because the purpose of the GIIN is just that. It's just an identification number which allows the tax authorities to see that you think you're an FI. So questions will be asked. And I can see HMRC coming forward now and starting to ask those questions of the financial institutions who haven't made a FATCA return. And it is FATCA that we're interested in here. The GIIN is very much a FATCA process. It's quite critical, I think, that if that question gets asked, you can justify why you got that GIIN in the first place. Can you show that you're a financial institution? Do you meet the criteria to be getting a GIIN in the first place? And I think if you're looking at the depository account, depository institutions, custodians, and the insurance side of it, that's not difficult. You're going to be able to show quite easily that you fall within the remit. For the investment entity type financial institution, it might be a bit more borderline, and you might need to be able to establish quite closely that you do actually meet the criteria for being an FI, and that has knock-on effects. If you can't establish you're an FI, have you given that GIIN to another financial institution, a bank, for example, and said, here, I'm an FI, here's my GIIN, you don't need to report on me? Because if you don't fit the criteria for FI, you're a non-financial entity. A non-financial foreign entity, potentially as far as the US is concerned, and consequently there might be reporting requirements which have been missed. Fantastic. So it's a fairly important point, and I can see HMRC looking closely at those going forward to make sure that the right people are reporting and the right things are being reported.
Excellent. So if you're a GIIN holder, you better have a well-documented reason why you're not reporting under the FATCA regime.
Absolutely.
Now, Chris, whilst I've got you, are there any other insights or you have for financial institutions that they need to be mindful of in their obligations in relation to IRS?
Yes, certainly. I think what you're going to start seeing fairly soon from the IRS as well is a comeback on the basis of individual accounts in particular. The IRS gave a leeway to try to obtain tax information numbers or tax identification numbers and date of birth. They asked FIs over a 3-year period to contact those account holders where they didn't hold that information and seek it. And there's now a series of dummy tins which are used where you've been through that process and you haven't been able to get that information. The IRS are going to start looking at those account holders. The fact is that they've been reported to the IRS means that there is US indicia there. If there wasn't US indicia, they wouldn't be reported.
Yes.
Now, that information is still missing. The IRS are going to come back and are going to start looking at some of those accounts and may well determine those account holders are recalcitrant account holders for FATCA purposes. That has consequences, certainly for the account holder, because it may well mean that they end up with withholding. But also, if you have a financial institution that has a lot of these apparently recalcitrant account holders, why? Why has that happened? You may well find that the IRS asks HMRC to look closely at the reasoning for all that missing information. And if you haven't, or you can't show that you've done everything you could have done to obtain that information, the IRS may well look at you and decide that you are non-compliant. And that is somewhere you really don't want to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your expertise. And I know our clients really appreciate when you do work with us in performing mock audits and also helping out firms when they have got an inquiry on the way. So thank you for your time, and hopefully we can have you share your expertise in future episodes.
My pleasure.
Thanks.